really excited today. We are here at BlackHat. You might be able to see behind us. We have the stunning backdrop of Las Vegas Strip. And I'm really excited to be joined by Max. Max is the co-founder and CEO of LimaCharlie. And we're very excited today to talk in a little bit more detail about what these guys are up to, the problems they're solving, maybe a little bit about what's going to be going on this week. Why don't you start off, Max, though? Thank you for joining me here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Sure. Yeah. So myself, I've been in cybersecurity for a long time at this point, since about 2007, and now running LimaCharlie, pretty different kind of company, and so we come here to try to tell the world what it is that we're doing. So we're pretty excited to be at BlackHat, to kind of keep that mission going.
No, and what a great time to be here. Obviously, very exciting things happening this week. And I mean, the people kind of tuning in won't quite be able to see the unbelievable suite that you've got going on here, but can definitely see the backdrop. But I mean, kind of let's open the door a little bit more and understand a little bit more about the foundations of LimaCharlie. I mean, what is it that you guys are kind of setting out to solve?
Yeah. So I mean, here's the bottom line, right? Like I was saying, I've been in security since 2007. Very briefly, I started in intelligence in Canada, so I'm Canadian. But I've worked at CrowdStrike and Google and Chronicle and a bunch of different places. And when I left Chronicle, was really that kind of crystallization, that realization that the industry hasn't changed a whole lot since I started. And I couldn't put my finger on what is it exactly that kind of needs to change and hasn't changed. Kind of foundational change is hard to see until you actually make it happen. But really, what I realized is that cybersecurity, it still sees itself as a collection of we'll use point solution in the industry, right? It's kind of the common term, but the bottom line is that they are entire products around and entire companies around that product kind of solving that issue. And it's as if we've never taken like a breather in the middle and said, okay, this is okay, but let's reason about cybersecurity a little bit more. Are we going in the right direction? We just keep rushing to do these solutions that we try to get to market and that we put a lot of marketing behind, without necessarily asking like the big question, the overarching question, like, is this the right direction? And the answer, in my opinion, and obviously this is where we went, right? But the answer is shockingly simple, right? Once you see it, which is exactly the same thing as the IT industry went through, right? So it was this idea that the cloud provider is sort of the next phase of IT, right? Back in the 90s, it was like, you bought the box software and that was the thing. And then at some point, IT kind of realized, look, we understand all of these things we're trying to do. What we're looking for isn't some magical vendor that just happens to be the best at doing everything on the whole planet at all times, because that's kind of not realistic, right? If we take a hard look at what we do. And so instead, the pattern of a cloud provider is really how we grow this industry in cybersecurity towards the future. The key is to say a lot of the things that were once really cutting edge in cybersecurity no longer are. And what it means is it does not mean that, hey, we should take a bag of those 20 of those things and buy 20 of those companies and put them under a web portal that you can click on all like that. That's not the real solution, right? That's just cosmetic. The real solution is to start to say, okay, what if everybody was able to get access to those core pieces of solution to do whatever they wanted to do with it, right? Just like an AWS or Google Cloud. I can go to AWS and say I need 20,000 virtual machines. They're not going to ask me why, right? Yeah. They're just going to go, yep, do what you will. And so cybersecurity kind of needs this hyperscaler, this cloud provider, or in my opinion, multiple of them, right? I think that's where competition is good. because what it's going to enable is it's going to enable a lot of people that use these solutions to break out of the cycle of, hey, there's 5 big vendors, they are 90% of the industry. Anything else can only hope to essentially get acquired by those, by those 5, and this is where innovation kind of like goes to die.
Yeah.
And the reality is, we want to open up the whole space so that, again, self-serving, right? But like EDR was sort of where we started. But I think about EDR like the virtual machine of cybersecurity, right? It's kind of a core, it's a workhorse. And it's this belief that anybody that needs an EDR, that needs an agent, whether it's to build a product or to do services, should not have to go and negotiate their firstborn with a contract, for 3 years with one of the 5 big vendors, because that's it, right? It should be a commodity. And when we say commodity, we don't mean it just from a pricing perspective, but from an access perspective, right? And that's the part that the industry hasn't gotten into. But at the same time, it's my opinion that it's inevitable. There's no way it's not going in that direction.
Yeah, I think we already see a lot more of it as well, because it's definitely getting to the point now that there's a lot of the startups that we're starting to see in the space are making a bit more noise. Even at these events, you're kind of getting the opportunity to see that, okay, you've got the big names here, but actually some of the smaller names are getting pretty creative about the way that they brand themselves as well. They're going out there and you're seeing kind of like monster trucks, or you're seeing kind of, and whatever it may be, but it's also the case that people are starting to recognize that the names that you're hearing. But you talked about like, it's kind of that accessibility piece. I think cybersecurity can be so overcomplicated. There's all these different buzzwords, there's all these different technologies. It can be really overwhelming if you are kind of creating that synergy between the different solutions, or at least kind of allowing, I suppose, people to have access or recognizing where they can get that, and not having the intimidating thing of going to these big corporations, like you say, where innovation does get lost. It's, we see it all the time. You get an acquisition with a great product, and it's kind of, everybody's like, oh, they're off to die. Like it's almost like a bit of a tragedy. I mean, talk to us kind of maybe in a little bit more detail about like how we're starting to see it, like you've said, but how are we going to continue to see it? What can we do? What are the contributions here that are going to help us kind of evolve in the right way?
Mm-hmm. I believe that the people that are at the forefront of this are the people that need, they're kind of a combination of a few things. So one is there are people that know what they're doing. it's
Helps.
And I don't mean that like in a negative way, but right, if you're a tiny, I don't know, you're a hairdresser somewhere, like the reality is you're never going to get cybersecurity people, that's not your thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, a lot of services providers that do that. The other part is people that need to do this at scale.
Yeah.
Because if you think of a cloud provider, yes, there's enterprises, that will use them, but the reality is that the first people that really started leveraging this were leveraging this at scale, right? They were saying, we want to become a large company, we want to move quickly, therefore we're not going to go and buy 50 million's worth of Dell, server racks. We're going to go to AWS because we can go fast. We know what we're doing. We want to be able to have control over what we're doing as well, right? Yeah. And so I think the same thing is, that's our observation in cybersecurity. Yeah. And that combination really comes down to mature service providers, right? They will have hundreds or thousands of customers. So around the scale, the reality is, they just can't go to a CrowdStrike and go and say, hey, I need to click through one console at a time, right? Just to be in the worldview that a CrowdStrike thinks it's in. So that scale is really critical, and those service providers really want to differentiate themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a point that is historically kind of lost because of the structure of the industry, right? Yeah. When all you can do is say, well, which one of those 5 do you license, and you resell the SKU? If you're reselling their SKU, you're exactly the same pretty much as the others reselling the SKU, right? But when you start to think about this as, what if I had access to the heavy machinery? Right? AWS said it beautifully. It was a undifferentiated heavy lifting, right? What if I had that? What could I do? What could I, how could I build my company?
Yeah. And in case you kind of touched base a little bit there, in the sense that obviously there's probably limitations in the market right now that are potentially hindering what we're talking about. I mean, if we were to kind of break it down, because scalability is obviously a pretty critical, especially if you look at multiple different businesses, you're looking at all the different kind of like solution problems you want to solve. This, again, I already said it, but it's overwhelming. There's a lot there. Do you think that right now, are there, other than the fact that we're looking at, okay, these are the key vendors in the space, they're pretty much dominating the market, these people aren't just, they haven't got the, people don't know that they exist, or they're just not getting the right noise. Are there any other limitations that are stopping this kind of moving through, or kind of, companies being able to go through the scalability piece that you mentioned?
I think the factor that was slowing it down, I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
was that cybersecurity is extremely specialized, right?
Yeah.
It is not the same as a software developer and a security engineer are not the same thing.
Yes, yeah.
And so what that meant historically was that a lot of security engineers kind of started on that spectrum on the reselling SKU side of things, because they needed access to the things. And the idea at the time of, well, if I want to go to the other side, I have to do software engineering for this whole thing, right? It's really a large piece of the puzzle. So I think that is what was slowing down things. It's always said the whole build versus buy, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly, the crystallization of this. And that is slowly dissolving in the same way I would argue that it did in IT, when people started to go, well, building does not mean I need to rebuild the entire world anymore. It just means that I get, these APIs to things that are designed to potentially work together in ways that I decide. And now I can just, use the cloud to go, 1 to 100x my outcome, right, of what I can do. So I think it's that same thing that's been slowing it down, but it is also changing.
Yeah.
That's a given, right? So much more IT in the world, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that we're going to be able to keep much longer with this approach of saying, the cookie cutter approach, right?
Yes,
This got to protect everybody on Earth at the same time. Some solutions are designed for that and are great, right?
Yeah.
Antivirus, right? Antivirus is as old as the world.
Yeah.
And that's its job is, hey, if we had to cover the whole planet all at once, how good could we get at preventing it?
Yeah.
And it's really it's shockingly good when you really think of the problem space. But the reality is it can't go to 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, kind of you touch base on a couple of things, but one of the things that sometimes in security that I think can be a bit of a challenge is, or a limitation, is the fact that there's so many different products, so many different solutions. But you talk about the cookie cutter, you kind of have to now offer bespoke solutions. You have to kind of tailor it, because whether you're looking at, okay, there's a business that has loads of external customer identities, and then that's going to be a centralized focus or a challenge, or actually just a huge amount of huge internalized team. Maybe they've got teams spread globally. Maybe there's X, Y, and Z. It's kind of is actually getting to the point where you can't really say, oh, it's one size fits all here. You've got to really be able to package that, and I suppose that probably aligns to this scalability piece. I mean, how do we continue to evolve to make sure that's kind of the mindset? Because again, if you've got these big companies, they are pretty much a lot of the time either cookie cutter, or you've got to add on to this service, add on to this service, add on to this service. Suddenly you're spending a lot of money, and again, I think that's what puts a lot of people off security, in the sense that they're like, it's that, I don't know, it's, oh, well, it could happen to us, but it might not happen to us. Do we want to spend millions on something that might happen? And the reality is, well, yeah, probably no, you do, but it's almost that hypothetical theory. I mean, again, how is that something that either kind of that we're seeing, but also how do we overcome it?
That's a really, really
tough
good
question.
It's a really tough question. I don't know if there's really, a good answer, but I think having the ability to put together the right security posture for the right organization is sort of the essence of what you're mentioning, and it's absolutely correct in my mind that as I'll pick an example, right? Back in the day, it used to be just like Microsoft networks, right? Like you have I got a DC, a domain controller.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Yes. Well, that's how identity is done for 95% of companies on the planet. Cool. Now, I have an identity provider. Which one? Right?
Yeah.
Which
one? Literally.
Exactly. And so having the ability to be able to apply your know-how to these different solutions is really the key. Now, do I believe that we will be able to drive that concept all the way to consumer level? I don't think so. I think the reality is, as much as in a weird way, none of us would like to think about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But the reality is that more and more as we go into the future, it's a hard problem. It's a hard job. It's a complex job, right? And if somebody's trying to tell you that they have the cookie cutter solution or the one-click solution, they're probably just lying.
Yeah.
I always compare it to building bridges, right? Imagine that your city wants to go and build a bridge, and they go to a contractor, and the contractor says like, "Oh yeah, we'll build you the best bridge. We're 100% bridge." Like, what does that mean? It means nothing. There's no such thing, right? The engineering industry have hundreds of years of saying we have to think about how load propagates, the types of the dynamics and all of that, and we would love it if we didn't have to think about that, but it's reality. We're all professionals. We're here to do professional jobs.
Yeah. Oh, we've got to work at the end
I
of the
know,
day.
right?
Oh. No, and I think and arguably I reckon we could be here all day long talking about everything. There's always so much to unpack, but I mean to kind of really go into you guys, because there's loads going on. You've obviously got a really exciting proposition. There's a need for it in the market, as we've clearly demonstrated in this. So I mean, to kind of close off, let's kind of just what's in store for you guys. What's next? What's kind of going on? Give us a little bit more of an insight into, again, very exciting week here, but I imagine the excitement doesn't just end at this week. So
That's right. We I keep saying it again and again, but very much like a cloud provider like AWS. So our approach to this is we look at the industry and we look at the things that are really well understood, and where we can say, there's this other company, we're trailblazers, and they figured out where the value is in that product, and we get the benefit of saying we're going to target where the value is and do that and bring it in like a Lego block, right? Mm-hmm. So LimaCharlie is kind of working with Lego blocks.
Yeah. So
that is the approach we want to keep doing. So what that means is we're kind of always expanding the offering.
Yeah.
And the way we think about it is that we want to do that expansion in a way that makes sense within the platform. So we don't want to go and go in a totally different area of cybersecurity. There's no bridge between us, right? So for us, it means that right now we're heading towards a better search experience. Mm-hmm. And because I hesitate to call it SIM, because SIM means nobody likes their SIM, and SIM means something different to everybody.
Literally, yeah, everybody.
It's crazy. But in that area, and then we're also expanding into vulnerability reporting.
Yeah.
So we're kind of always adding these blocks, these Lego blocks, and what that means is that our users, whether they're they're service providers, so we're the back end, as a large thing to a lot of service providers, a lot of larger service providers, and so for them sometimes it means that they get to just, when we come up with it, they get to build a quick offering to their their customers, or product builders. We even have product builders that build companies on top of us. So that's exciting too.
No, it sounds like exciting times for sure, and ultimately, I think kind of it's always that thing is it only goes up from here. There's so much to be able to do. It's probably daunting sometimes, thinking the list never ends.
That's you're more right than you think. We build Lego blocks, so the number of things that we see that we could build is
Yeah.
just so high. We always have to go.
Yeah, it's just one block at a time.
That's right.
Don't look at the big picture too much. But that's the exciting thing, right? That's when you know you're hitting a right space in the market, when there's so much potential, and ultimately it's going to continuously evolve. We're seeing new products come to the space all the time. We're seeing new demands. Everybody talks about kind of the impact of Gen AI and AI and stuff like that, and that's only going to continue to create more and more and more. So, I mean, ultimately, exciting time for you guys. But Max, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And obviously, to listeners, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to, if you catch this while you're at BlackHat, make sure to swing by, reach out to the team, and we'll join you next time for some more conversations that are shaping cyber.